Hey, good morning, and welcome to another edition of a Stronger Futures Project. And I am joined with my co host today. She is an international speaker, an international author, and she has the best last name. So I knew when I saw her on LinkedIn, I met her on LinkedIn, I knew that I just was going to fall in love with this lady. And after a few conversations, that was very much confirmed and validated. So I'm going to let her tell a little bit about who she is, what she does, and tell us a little bit, Ruth.
Well, hello everyone. Yes, I'm an author. I like to think of myself as a very creative person. Grew up in a creative family, but of course, living in government town, which is Ottawa, Canada, I spent most of my career in the federal public servant service, which is the antithesis of creativity. And so I decided to follow my own instincts and concentrate on creativity, what it is, what it looks like, where you can find it, who does it, who doesn't do it. So that's my jam, that's my passion.
That's fantastic. And so that is what you were just sharing about is you created your own stronger future because of the creativity and the vision that you had for your own life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, today as we're talking about this, uh, when you want to say no, and I think just in what your statement was, you said yes to other people for a long time, and then you finally came to that realization of saying no to them or to whatever was absorbing your attention, and you said yes to you. So tell us a little bit about what it felt like to say yes to yourself.
Oh my goodness. Very freeing. Uh, I began to say, well, I wonder if I can do it. And why don't I try? And the number of things that I've done since I made that decision has been incredible. Who would have said that I would write a book? 3 books, in fact, talk to people, the shyest person in the entire world. And now I have no problem with speaking to people all over the world. It was just do it. Say yes. Try it out. Doesn't matter if you're not that good at it. You'll get better. Uh, Starting a podcast. Oh, I don't know. Will anybody listen to it? Well, they are. And now starting a YouTube channel, which was, oh my goodness, isn't that big? Well, I don't know. Why don't I try it? So definitely saying yes to yourself, but making yourself feel a little uncomfortable so you can get better at it.
I love it. I love everything that you said because when you said yes to you, it was uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And wouldn't you say that there was such a higher level of uncomfortableness staying where you were for so long?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
start to feel your world is shrinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, um, as we talked, you and I, Stanley, about uh, ADHD, is if you don't have that structure that you feel is weighing you down, it actually grounds you. And then you start saying yes to too many things,
Ah,
So I don't know about in your world, but for me, I'm like a magpie. I get so excited about all these nice shiny little things, and I'll take them to my nest and hold them, and then suddenly my nest is overflowing.
Yeah.
And then those other uncomfortable emotions start coming in, overwhelm. Oh, gee, there's just too much to do.
Hmm.
Or guilt. Maybe I'm only scraping the surface. Or, oh, God forbid, half assing stuff. Um, and then it's, oh, well, what about if I say no? People won't like me anymore. I'll offend them. And then those other weird negative things start coming into your head.
Yeah. The bright, shiny objects. And I talked a little bit earlier today about ADHD and ADD and having, seeing, oh, look, there's a bird. And, you know, it's one of those things. And so it is when something comes along, often we're thinking, or at least I've had this tendency to think maybe this is the only time that this opportunity is going to come, and I don't want to miss out. So there's this fear of missing out, and a lot of times we say yes to things that we know we should have said no to, and we confirm that once we get there and go, man, why did I say yes to this? I've got so many other things to do. And I want to say that there's a validation that we really want confirmed. And part of it is there's three answers in life. There's yes, no, and maybe. And it is estimated that by the time, and I don't know how they came up with this number, so just bear with me, and you can do a fact check if you want, but that's on you. I'm not going to provide that. But 148,000 times we are told no by the time we're 18 years old.
Mm.
So when we get three answers, yes, no, or maybe, if we get a no, and it's something that we wanted a yes to, even if it wasn't good for us, we want to validate that. We want to find out why, and we want a yes. And I think the thing about, you're talking about the fear of missing out and chasing these shiny objects is because what could I learn if I bought this course? Or what could I learn if I went to this seminar? What more could I do? Let's go to 5 seminars in 1 week. Because sure, I'm going to be a superpower, right?
Exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I find is when you're chasing all of those shiny objects, sometimes you lose sight of your purpose.
Mm,
What is it that you really want to do? What is it that defines you? What really excites you? Not these peripheral excitements, but what is really important to you. So it's finding that balance
mhm,
of not missing out and learning something and getting so excited about something and going, okay, what is it that I really want to do? What is my
right.
purpose? Is it possible to say no and not lose sight of those exciting opportunities and not losing your purpose?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that simple. Yeah.
It isn't that simple because in that purpose, there's that meaning.
Mhm.
And it's more than just finding your why. It's finding the meaning behind that why. What is the value that it's going to give you, and saying yes to everything. I think there's an element that we think is missing. There's an ingredient that we always see that maybe not always see. That's a negative. That's an automatic negative thought. Anytime we put always on it, they always do this or they always do that when we throw that word on there. But when we do that, we have this tendency to feel like maybe our meaning isn't quite as valuable as we perceive it to be. And so saying yes may open or unlock the key. And I want to say that there's more times than not that the lock is already open. And if we just search within, then we discover what was always there before. And I say always in that instance because it is the seed within the soil that prevents us from saying yes all the time and learning to appreciate that two-letter word of saying no and celebrating that. I think there's a lot of uncelebration that happens around the word no.
Well, just think of the strength that you need to be able to say no tactfully and with intention.
Yes.
It takes tact, it takes presence of mind, it takes commitment. It also takes courage. And
It
it also
does.
takes quite a bit of creativity. It means finding a different way for yourself and finding a different way of engaging with people. So there's a lot of good in that no.
Right. Yeah. And it's a double-edged sword because one of the challenges and one of the exercises that I will give to my clients is to go get a no
Ah.
and not feel the rejection, not attaching yourself to the rejection. And when you can get a no, and you get back up and you rise back up and you continue to go forward, now it builds a resilience and
Mm.
it creates, not only does it create the courage to do so, but it also creates what's the word that I'm looking for? It's another C word.
Confidence.
Confidence. Yes. Yes. Because when we don't attach ourselves to the outcome, and I've had clients that I've given them the project of, your project this week is to go get 4 no's.
Mm.
And the reason is that as you get used to hearing it from other people and not attaching to the outcome, hey, you walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'd love to take you to dinner. And they say no. And you go, well, then there's something wrong with me. And really, they're not saying that. They're just saying, no, not that day. I'm busy already. They're not rejecting you. They're just rejecting that opportunity at that time, but ask for another different day.
Mm.
And then you diffuse the power of that word no. And as we learn that, and then we're able to share that with other people, and we say, I love the opportunity to come and serve you today and be at your event. And, but I have other plans. Now we can detach from that strong word that we learned no, that was keeping us from something that we wanted to do, but to allow us the opportunity to do something else that's more important, more valuable. So you mentioned pleasing others, and go a little deeper in that. What is that about? Because I know that I'm the only listener that it affects. So please just embellish a little bit for me, would you please, and help me to not have this desire to please others and learn to say no.
Yeah, so it's about always feeling that you need to be doing something for other people, to
Mhm.
making them happy and pleasing them, and you get yourself into a situation at some point where you have nothing left to give.
Ah, wow.
You're full. Your cup is full. And sometimes it means stepping back a little bit. There is a French Canadian expression that I just love. It's called reculer pour mieux sauter. So what it means is to retreat in other in order to advance.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow.
And for me, that's very powerful.
It is.
It's the hitting that pause button and being able to say, as you mentioned, no, not right now,
Right.
or no, I'm going to hit the pause button. I'm actually going to step back and reevaluate in order to leap forward.
Right. Retreat in order to advance. That is powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Because we have to, if we step back away, our
Mhm.
peripheral now expands
That's right.
and we're able to see things that are right in front of us, but we're blind to them. That's powerful. Yes. And I'm glad you interpreted it because I don't speak French.
I was just showing off. Here we go.
Awesome. Awesome. So you also talked about the guilt in that. You know, how would you encourage people not to have that guilt in saying no?
Is the saddest impression expression is I could have, I should have, I wanted to.
Mm,
And those are based on your own insecurities. Uh, I had a situation where I took on a job that I went, I am wholly not qualified for this. And I thought to myself, no, I'm going to actually embrace my insecurities and use them to help build a team, to get other people involved. So, when you have these thoughts running in your mind, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as this other person. I don't have 85 years of experience doing this. How would anybody ever listen to me? And to be able to step back and say, no, these are not your excuses.
right.
Use those insecurities to let everybody know that you're not interested in being the expert or doing it all by yourself, to let other people in. And it was a
So
strategy that worked actually very well for me.
yeah. So what you if I'm hearing you correctly, you're also saying to tell that lizard mind
Hmm. Hmm.
that is trying to protect you, that fight, flight, or hide mode, you're saying no to it.
That's right. No can be very powerful and very healing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it says, no, you should stay home and just stay in your zone. And sometimes saying no to yourself, countering that. So the no can work both ways, to others and to ourselves. And it
That's
can work
right.
in a positive way. So I love that. I love that. So the difficulty of saying no, being uncomfortable in different situations, the default to say yes to avoid confrontation. Okay. So going along with, as you shared in the beginning about how you stayed at a place or in a predetermined, what was already set for you by others, and you stayed there until the day that it became so uncomfortable and you were suppressing your greatness. Did you write any books while you were working for anybody else?
No,
No.
no,
No.
no.
So why don't you share just a little bit about when that first book came out? What did that what did that yes to you and no to the world outside of you unlock?
This was actually my first book was actually about my father's very different experience during the Second World War.
Mm.
He had passed, and it was my way of dealing with the fact that he had passed and knowing that there was a part of him that I knew very little about. So this was a wonderful way for me to try something new, to get to know my father, to honor the service that he provided, and to challenge myself to do something that was a little different. So, a backstory is when I was doing my master's, one of the professors said to me, Ruth, you've been in government too long. You can't write. And I went, oh, yeah, I can. I do it all the
Wow.
time. And I thought to myself, okay, why is he saying that to me? And what he was saying was, you're very careful with all of your words. You need to expand out. And I thought to myself, I lost my descriptor button.
Ah,
So this was my way of challenging myself is how do I refine that descriptor button? And th- with my first book, it was playing with that. It was how do I do a research project, but play with my writing to expand it and go somewhere else that I hadn't done for far too long. And it was very freeing, actually. And what was even more exciting was that I enabled other people to feel and to
mm,
use their own descriptor buttons. So once I wrote his story, I actually had uh, the extended families contact me and say, oh, this is what this book meant to me. And I discovered that I was saying yes to myself in sharing an unusual story. And I found that it enabled other people to say yes to themselves. So this was really exciting for me. So it was a great story and one that I felt needed to be out there. And I didn't realize that in telling this story and challenging myself and saying no to my insecurities, that I could actually be of better service to other people.
wow. Wow. So you're saying yes to you actually created the access for other people to say yes and also not only have closure, but have new beginning.
And for some, it was almost like a creativity catalyst.
Yeah.
So this one gentleman who had never known his father, he was one of those children born to Canadian soldiers in England. He discovered about his father, and it was a catalyst for him. He began to write,
Wow.
and he had such a wonderful flowing way of describing things. So I thought, wow, that saying yes to myself and no to all those negative ideas of no, I can't do this was actually starting a chain reaction for other people.
So when you wrote your first book, when you said yes to
Mhm.
this, when you said yes to you and you wrote this book, did you have any idea what the possibilities would have been?
Not a clue. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more of a spirit of adventure for myself.
Mm.
And since then, people seeing that, yeah, I can write, uh, that's where my second chain of no's about to come in.
Okay. Okay. Share a little bit about that.
Well, because of my ability to write and this sense that people get of my quirkiness, I was actually asked to co write another book with a gentleman from Costa Rica. And together with two other people, we wrote Your Creativity Sprint. And so this enabled a different sort of saying yes. And it meant yes to us as a group and no, Ruth, put your ego aside and just enjoy the ride. So it allowed me to say to myself, yes and no are very powerful words,
Mhm.
and they're both sides of the coin, for good or bad. And with a surfeit of opportunities and potential yeses, I also have to know, how do I pace myself? Because again, that little magpie,
Yeah.
bright shiny things,
Right.
keeps
Right.
rearing its head, and it's like, pull back a little bit, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's amazing. As you surrounded yourself with people that validated the ability to say no to what the norm is, what's expected of us,
Yeah.
and learning that there is so much power. Because if I would have said yes to, I think back, and there's the song, and I think Garth Brooks sang it. I don't really know if that's, it doesn't matter, but he thanks God for all the prayers that weren't answered, you know,
Mm.
and because like, I knew I wanted to marry, and I don't know if she'll ever see this, so I can say her name, but in the third grade, Sherry Goebel, she was just the bomb. I mean, she was everything, right? And I just remember, and then there was the seventh grade girl. Oh, I just knew I was going to marry her, and then my heart was broken. And I'm just, going back, I'm like, and I won't mention her name, but it's like, I'm glad I didn't marry her, and it's just like, I'm glad I didn't get that job. They said no to me, but I didn't know that they were actually protecting me. And so, no, hindsight, you can look back and go, I'm glad I didn't take that job. I'm glad that I didn't board that plane. I'm glad that I didn't take that vacation. And when I've thought about saying no, and I did say yes to get out of my comfort zone, I'm so glad that I did, because I can't
Mhm.
imagine what I would have missed otherwise. And it's deciphering that and using the power of no. And it's a double-edged sword. It can go either direction. You never know what might have been if you went right instead of left. But it's the power of saying, I'm not going to worry about that shiny object of what I think might have been, because we can create ideas in our mind of everything that we missed out on, and that's the fear of missing out. That's why we say yes to everything. And and then we're overwhelmed, we're exhausted, we're irritable, and we're not happy to be around, you know not even ourselves. And we can beat ourselves up by saying, why did I say yes again? And sometimes it is, when we get out of our comfort zone, saying yes was like, man, I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that I followed that. So have I confused people more by not being able to decide? No, I'm just saying, protect your boundaries
Yes.
as you understand, what boundaries you have. Protect them. Set up set up that barrier where you are in control.
So when we were discussing earlier, I loved when you said, "Yeah, I'm the kind of person that I've got about 25 tabs open."
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
and then I liked even better when you said, "Okay, I don't clutter my mind with a lot of these things. I've got them on sticky notes and then I put them on this board downstairs and it just stays down there." And I remember saying, "Oh, that's just like Harry Potter with Dumbledore, the wizard, just removing those thoughts and putting them in a jar, just letting them sit there until he needs them later." And I thought, that's exactly what you do.
Yeah. I have all these tabs open,
Yeah.
and my bookmarks, they have picture icons, and I'm a very visual person. In Chrome, it just gives you the title. It doesn't give you the little icon. So when I'm scrolling, my memory remembers a picture. Like, I
Ah.
am an eye person. So when I meet somebody, I might forget their name, but I don't forget their eyes. So I'm looking at people in the eye, and I love it when people look me in the eye. And you know, when my kids were in high school, if one of their friends didn't look me in the eye, I'm like, can't trust them. If you don't look me in the eye, so I'm an eye person. So I've got, I can't even confess how many I have in my reading list, because it's like I'm going to get back to it. What year? I'm not sure. What decade? I'm not sure. It might even be a different century. But I know that they're there, right? And before I realized that even if your computer crashes, your bookmarks will stay there. So I would write them all down just in case I missed them. And so I had a book that had all the websites that I visited. Now, talk about confusing. I was saying yes to what I didn't understand about technology. So I did. I'm guilty of that, and I'm consciously aware of that, is that I don't need 50 tabs open because I'm not going to get back to them. So I wouldn't shut my computer down all the time. I'd leave it on, leave it. I'd put it to sleep, but then I'd have those 50 tabs and I'd say, I don't understand why my computer's running slow, because I'm saying yes to everyone and it's a distraction, and saying no to myself because I think I got to get back to something that's more important, that's going to have more information, going to have more validation, more understanding, more knowledge, more growth. How much self development can you do in an hour, right?
That's absolutely right. But what's kind of interesting with what you've been doing is putting them on a board is you're really saying no, but it's a delayed yes.
Exactly. Exactly. So what you're referring to is I have a whiteboard, and it's 7 feet long and it's 4 feet high. And I would go and I would work out, and I would get a thought, and I would immediately go to my dry erase board and I would write on there. And I didn't write it in an order like some go this way, some go this way, some go across, some do an arch. And the reason that I do that is because it is a picture. It's here again. It's visual, and it brings back a memory or an experience, an emotional connection. And I had a wonderful conversation on Tuesday, and the lady says, "You need to write a book." And I'm like, "No, why do I want to write a book?" And she said, and I began to share why I didn't want to write a book. And I said, I don't want to fall like a raindrop in the ocean, because there's so many books out there already. And she said, you answered your own question. And so all the time I'm saying no to a book, she said, I'm going to share a story. You probably heard it already. But there was a young man walking along the shore, and there were a bunch of starfish that had washed up on the shore. And there was an older gentleman watching this kid throw these starfish in. And I've shared this story before. And he said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I'm making a difference." He goes, "Look at all these starfish. They're all washed up. You can't possibly make a difference to these starfish." And he picked up another starfish and he threw it in and he said, "I did for that one." And he bent down and picked up another one. "I did for that one." And so, what she challenged me while I've been saying no to this concept, this idea, because I don't want to fall into the minutia and the overabundance of books already, is that I need to say yes to that, because even if I impact one person, I make an impact. So here I am in, um, the first third of my life, and I'm fairly young, 60. And so, it's like starting over. And it's saying yes to yourself and doing the things that you do have your purpose, you do find your meaning, and you have more than just a task. Is you're saying yes to something that you've said no to. It's not the fear of missing out, and it's not just to please other people, but it is to contribute at a level and take. I have a bunch of sayings on this board. I'm going to use them, and they're chapter titles for the book. And I've been doing that for, I don't know, 10 years or longer, that I've had this board down there. And it was like I had this big whiteboard. What do I do with it? Well, start filling it up. You know, you have a notebook, start writing in it. We have post-it notes, and I've got post-it notes all over the place. I'm saying yes to myself, and maybe even a delayed yes, like you said. So I love that. Thank you for bringing that up.
So the weirdest thing, my daughter found at a jumble sale this book about the making of the Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
And one of the production people said the most interesting thing. He says, there are no bad ideas. They're just ideas that are not ready yet.
Hmm.
Their time hasn't come. And I thought, wow. So how many ideas that we just say no to right away,
Right.
and they're lost. What's wrong with qualified no? Maybe there'll be a yes later. But the fact is that all those ideas, and you and I know well that they're always popping,
Yeah.
is why not put those ideas somewhere else so they're not actively um, taking up brain space, so that you can concentrate on what's immediate, that you're not overwhelmed. It's a technique that you've discovered. I do the same.
Yeah. So getting those ideas out, knowing what we want to say no to, knowing what we want to say yes to. And
Mhm.
when we want to say yes to something at a later time, write those down on a post-it note or on, like you say, that board that I have. And that is my yes for later. So I can make room appear, but still have the recollection because I've gotten it out. So once
Mhm.
I've brought that seed out of the package, now where am I going to plant it, and what soil am I going to plant it in? That's
And
awesome.
maybe it's not for you for those ideas.
Right.
Maybe it's for someone else to run with. Uh, I have this unfortunate habit of launching a grenade, seeing what happens, and maybe someone else will run with that idea, and that's okay. I don't have to be the one who runs with it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Ruth, as we bring this, what is one thing that really sticks out that you would want to share with people? And also, if you do want to get a hold of Ruth, please reach out to her. You see that she has her LinkedIn channel on here that you can reach out to her. A wonderful conversationalist and a heart of gold. So I
Oh, thank
just
you.
want to say that. Yeah. And she's got the best last name. So anyway, what is it that you'd like to share with our listeners and for those that are listening in the power of saying no, not only to others, but to yourself?
Make room for yourself. Because when you make room for yourself, you never know where that'll lead you.
Right. Yeah. And on that same line, I would say something very similar is have grace on
Mm.
yourself. And, don't take it personally. When you get a no, don't take it personally. When you give a no, don't take it personally. Take it as you are creating space for something that it may even be more valuable, and your availability to receive and to entertain what is intended for you at the highest level.
Can I say amen?
Amen. Yes, that's fantastic. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ruth. It has been a pleasure. And I look forward to another conversation with you in the future because I know there's so many that we can share. And congratulations on your book 4. And is that the latest book? And do you have another one inside?
Oh, it's never too late to create. Never.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. All right. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm Stanley Dietrich, your host. And if you would like to know more about me, you can go to my website, 360lifewithoutlimits.com, book a virtual coffee. And for those of you that are listening, please like and share. If you've got something out of this, share this with somebody that might need to hear about saying no. Have a great day. And I will see you the next episode.